Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Brianne Johnson. I am an environment and development planner here at NCTCOG. I work on a lot of different projects, but relevant to this is I work on our energy team under our State Energy Conservation Office funding. So a couple quick housekeeping things. If you haven't signed in on the sign-in sheets at the front already, please do that at the end, just so we can capture your attendance. Also, I have a form here that I'm going to pass around. This is for in-kind match. Basically, if you are paid to be here by your organization and that funding to pay you is not from a federal source, you can sign your name here and put your entity. And also, if you are comfortable, you can share the address or organization that started here today, so we can also capture your travel time. And basically what we do is we report the amount of hours that folks spent in this meeting and also traveling to and from this meeting to SECO, and we get some credit towards our grant for those hours. So if you're here and it's not on federal dollars, feel free to fill this out. Pass that around. We'll have questions for each presenter after their presentation, and then at the end, after all three folks have presented, we'll have kind of a roundtable discussion where you all can share your experience with this topic in your community or organization. Also, we are recording the audio from this meeting, so the workshop slides and the audio recording will be posted online to our Conserve North Texas website after the meeting for you to share or send to colleagues that were able to be here, all that good stuff. And we've also got some printouts in the back that are about different energy resources available both at NCTCOG and from SECO. Some information on SECO's preliminary energy assessments and some other resources that your organization can tap into for energy audits and stuff like that. And again, just acknowledging that our sponsor for this event is the State Energy Conservation Office. COG receives funding from SECO to work on various energy management projects and promote energy efficiency, renewable energy, things like that throughout our region. So we're very grateful to SECO for their support and for letting us get information out there too. And with that, I'll introduce our speakers and then we'll get right into it. So first up, we have Cliff Braddock from Metco Engineering. He's the Director of Business Development. Then we'll hear from Bahman Yazdani, the Associate Director of Texas A&M's Energy Systems Laboratory. And finally, Cassidy Ellis, New Market Strategies Manager for Ameresco. So Cliff, whenever you're ready.
I'm signing this thing.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thanks. Okay, so I guess it's an audio check here. We hear okay without, that's not even on, is it?
It can be, but I think you.
Do we need this?
No, you don't need that.
All right, just speak up loud. All right, well, welcome. It's good to be here. I hope everybody didn't have too big of a lunch and don't snooze off on us while we're going through this. So I'm pleased to be here along with a couple of my colleagues. We just briefly announced there, Cassie.
Are you okay if I?
Yeah, so we'll do the introductions of the least important people here first. I'm Cliff Braddock with Metco Engineering. Cassidy Ellis with Ameresco. Bahman, I bet you're not yelling today, are you? Bahman Yazdani with the Energy Systems Lab at part of Texas Energy Engineering Experimental Station and College Station. Only I can say that real quickly, and he can too. So let's figure out who all we are that's here at this workshop. We'll begin right here. And
Barry Gary with Metco Engineering.
Okay.
Bahman
Yazdani, Energy Systems Lab, Texas A&M.
Then
Yazdani. I'm the other half.
Bahman
I'm brought his boss.
Bahman boss.
Bahman's boss. He doesn't live in
My name is John Butts here with United Commercial Energy Partners.
I'm Cass O'Malley with United Commercial Energy Partners.
Great. Say we know.
I'm James Douglas. I'm the Conservation Programs Coordinator with the City of Denton.
Hello, I'm Blake. I'm an intern in the town of Flower Mound in the town manager's office.
My name's Heather. I'm with Trinity River Authority. I usually am on watershed protection side, but we're going to be retrofitting our building and building a new building. So I've been tasked with coming up with ideas.
You're in the right place. All right.
Casey Cannon, I'm with the COG. Fortunately, I'm gonna have to step out in a few minutes, but glad to be here while I am.
You're not going to be able to pass the test.
That's CEO, Senior Planner, City of Fort Worth.
Krista Guzman, I'm a planner here at the COG, and I work on this program with Brian and some of our other staff.
Alyssa Knox, I'm also a planner here at the COG, and I have the pleasure of working with Krista and Brianna on this project.
All right. Jonathan, we just did introductions. So who are you?
I'm Jonathan Kratz. I'm the executive director for the U.S. Green Building Council's Texas chapter. So I cover all of Texas, and I know these guys pretty well. So hopefully get to meet you all later.
All right, very cool. So we are here to talk about how to take the first step in energy, in reaching energy related goals. And I'm going to tell you that the first step is the easiest one to take. Also the cheapest one to take. So let's move into this. Oh, it was said that Q&A would be after each presentation. We just thought that if there's any question that comes up, you know, spur of the moment, just start talking. And we will take questions like at any time and kind of make this interactive. All right, so some of you people are not with a public agency and some of you are. The ones that are representing the public agencies, see if any of these questions resonate with you. Have you or your staff or for that matter, your stakeholders ever asked these questions? We want our buildings to be net zero. Who knows what net zero is? Do you have a definition for net zero? I'm going to try to define it real quickly. And that would be that, let's just take this building, that we put solar panels scattered about this facility. And over the course of the year, the amount of energy that those panels make is equal to what this building is consuming. And we would say that would be a net zero building. So if your stakeholders haven't asked for net zero yet, sooner or later, they're going to start asking. So you need to be prepared on, you know, what's that response is likely to look like. So anyway, you need to take if you're going to take the first step toward net zero, that's a question that comes up. Have you ever been asked, can you get your building certified as Energy Star? Have you ever gone to a store and bought something that has the Energy Star label on it? That means it's, you know, it should be energy efficient. You can get that same type of rating for your buildings. So has anybody asked you to get your buildings Energy Star certified? Surely by now you've been asked about leadership in energy and environmental design. So how do you get, Jonathan knows about LEED, a whole bunch about LEED. I do too, actually. So has anybody asked, you know, let's move our buildings to LEED, particularly the existing buildings, get them certified. So has that question come up? And surely the next one, let's keep our utility budget stable. We don't want to keep on increasing this budget year after year after year after year. That's going to be a big challenge given what's been going on these past few years. How about sustainability? Surely you're being asked to be more sustainable with your buildings. And then there's the old question that never goes away. We need to upgrade our lighting, the air conditioning system. We don't have any money, you know, to do that. Can anybody nod their head? Yes, we've seen one or more of those questions. Yes. All right. You're hearing me. So what's the answer? Do you know what the answer is? Well, I'm telling you the answer is the same for all those questions. It's energy efficiency. If you haven't done the energy efficiency, you can't check that box. You know, that's the first step. So along your path to net zero, like that example I gave a moment ago, if we were wasting energy here, I'll try to be dramatic about it. let's just pretend that our window, they were missing a few panes of glass on the window and outside air is coming in. I realize that's a, repair that needs to be done. But this building's going to use a lot more energy if that were happening, right? And so would you want to go put in a solar system to produce all the air conditioning that's necessary to cool the building plus part of the outside because the window's broken? No, you would want to do those repairs and upgrades so that the building is as tight and energy efficient as you could get it. So if you're headed to net zero, be sure you have an energy efficient building before you even go there. Energy Star, I'm sure Cassidy's done this. I certainly have. When you get ready to score your buildings, you got to be in the top 25%. If you're in the 75% that's not Energy Star eligible, I'm talking about energy efficiencies, there's no point in even applying. You need to have the energy efficiencies taken care of. Same thing for LEED, right, Jonathan? There's no LEED buildings that are energy inefficient. Can you make a comment?
Can I make a comment on that?
20 words or less. Why is energy efficiency important for LEED?
Well, the first E in LEED is energy, but really that's one of the basis for a lot of the other environmental impacts stem back to energy generation and transit and moving energy from place to place. So it has a huge impact in the building sector is about 40% of the energy used in the country, just commercial buildings. But it has a huge impact on what each building does, impacts the overall usage of a development of a city, of a state, etc.
40%, isn't that crazy? So that's, if you're going headed toward LEED, there you heard it. Energy efficiency is paramount. I'm of the opinion if you're going to get a stable utility budget, there's probably maybe two ways to do it. One of them is through the energy efficiencies as we're talking about. Maybe there's three ways. The second way, you can start producing power and compete with the utility. I guess the third way is the retail electric provider that you're using made a mistake, gave you a deal that they shouldn't have done. So sustainability and greenhouse gases, same thing. If you're doing monitoring your CO2 and your emissions footprint, you really want it to be low as you can get it, and you're not going to get there if you're wasting energy inside your building due to inefficiency. I'm sure Jonathan can wrap his hands around what is a pound of carbon. I don't, because I'm holding some right here. But just to be dramatic about it, we change compact fluorescent lighting into LED. That's equal to 16 pounds of CO2 reduction on an annual basis. So we don't have to do a lot of energy efficiency, and your CO2 footprint will shrink dramatically. All that being said, I think a lot of the clients that do go toward energy efficiency are probably not doing it for any of the above reasons. They're doing it because they need new equipment, and high efficient equipment that we have today can pay for itself. We'll talk a little more about that. So it's a good way to take an existing utility budget. I use the word rechannel instead of sending that money to Encore or Reliant or whomever, an Atmos. Then you send it to yourself and invest in new energy efficient equipment. Oh, there's a picture of what I was saying. So instead of going to the utility, picture your smiling face right there, or your building, I should say. And that's what we want to do. So I'm going to continue to talk a little bit more about the technology side of this. Cassidy's going to talk about some incentives as to why this is a good time to do it. And you guys cannot doze off. You'll have to listen very carefully when Bahman's going to whisper about how to make all of this happen. Oh, okay. Well, these two are going to help us close it out with some details on the financials and how to make it happen. And remember, you can ask questions about anything at any time. So we got, Bahman, you and I are going to be some of the elder people in this room. I was going to say that when you get in, you've been around a little while, and you start looking at how you get projects done. Sometimes I think about, like, how do you make a successful project? And I was trying to simplify it. 3 buckets. Technically, it needs to make sense because if technically it's not going to work, you may as well stop there and go fishing. If your technologies look like they're work, then you got to go get the pencil out and see, does it make financial sense? So if we don't make any financial sense, even though the technology is great, then, you know, you're going to stop. But let's assume that the technology is good, the finances look good. In my opinion, the 3rd bucket is the most difficult. And I think you guys, you public people this is where you play. You're the ones that bring the stakeholders together, get everybody to sing off the same sheet of music. You figure out the business model, you know, the procurement, you know, how you can make things happen for your agency. So if that 3rd bucket's not done, you know, we still don't have a project. So an energy efficiency project is a project, and it needs all 3 of those buckets addressed. So you guys have to help make that happen. All right, bucket number 1, though, back on the technology, we would expect you to be able to do that on your own. We would expect you to team up with what we would call an ESCO, an energy services company, who will do the heavy lifting for you. And we're going to hear a little bit about State Energy Conservation Office, SECO. That's actually why we're here, isn't it? Our state of Texas, we're very fortunate to have a very aggressive energy office, SECO, State Energy Conservation Office. They push all of us to do energy efficiency. And they have a pretty regimented program for how to get the preliminary assessments done all the way through, you know, commissioning and finishing up a project and measuring the performance thereafter. Anyway, it all begins with that first step. So the preliminary energy audit, that's what Cassidy, me, and dozens of other people in this industry, we do these PEAs. And what we do is we'll pull in the Bahman's organization does it all. All 3 of us, we do PEAs. And so what we do, we have to have some help from you, from the public agency. You know, you need to furnish some utility bills so we can go look at your histories for water and gas, electricity consumptions, the size of your buildings. And what we will do immediately is benchmark your building against a kind of a national average. We can use Portfolio Manager to do that. And I call it an energy scorecard, kind of a report card. It's okay to use the word report card now that we're back in school, right? So it's that time of the year. So we will benchmark your energy utilization. That's called EUI. And then we'll also benchmark the costs. ECI, the cost per square foot. Then we're going to get ready to go out to your building. We're going to be looking for whatever is using electricity and gas, and we'll be looking at your water, wastewater also. And the goal is we're going to be performing some energy savings calculations to give you a preliminary return on your investment as to what would this investment cost to install energy efficient devices and what kind of return on the investment you may have. So what you'll be taking away is you'll have energy savings, you'll have some new equipment that'll come in, and the door is open. And I need this to be a positive statement, not a negative. But we also are concerned about how you operate your building. You know, you have expensive equipment. It's, as Jonathan said, it could be 40% of your overall cost. You know, it's just a huge amount of expenses that are associated with it. It needs to be operated and maintained proactively and efficiently. So we're not there to throw arrows at an O&M staff. Those are actually our friends. Those are our best stakeholders. And Jonathan, you got something to say about that?
Well, absolutely, because you can build a very efficient building and operate it very poorly. I've actually seen it with LEED buildings that were built to LEED Gold that were operated extremely inefficiently because somebody complained about the temperature and they turned off all the automatic controls and stuck the air handlers to open full outside air and just did not operate the building very well. That the operations portion of this is probably the most important part of it.
I'll just use a dramatic example for that, and then we'll move on. We were in a city that's not represented in here, and we were directed to go take a look at a kind of an archive, a special environment for really millions of dollars worth of stuff. And the guy said that it has a dedicated air conditioning that takes care of this, but it's not working correctly. So let's go take a look. And we go up there and we see these, we call them DOAS, dedicated outside air systems. And open the door, leaves come pouring out. And they said, this thing's never going to work because it's got this big obstruction in there, just a big disc inside the duct. And I said, that's a desiccant dryer there. That's to remove humidity. Is that what that is? They need to get that out of here. It's blocking, the airflow. Anyway, it was just a sign that the owner's staff just flat out not trained on the maintenance of those type of devices. And it's really sad to see that, because equipment needs to be, what is it? The equipment needs to be commensurate with your capability to maintain it, or is it the other way around? Your maintenance staff needs to take care, be equal to the equipment. Anyway, we want to take a look at that and be sure that the O&M side of the facility is solid. All right, so for the next hour, we're going to review each one of these things here and dive down and be sure you understand what each one of them are. That is not a serious statement. But let you know that we do take a look at mechanical. There's kind of a list of the mechanical and electrical and water, wastewater, and even things as simple as a building envelope, weather stripping, and we just talked about O&M.
Did you tell everyone there's going to be a test at the end?
Yeah, those are on the test. So it'll be open book, though. That'll be the good thing about it. So who participates in making this PEA? You do need to remember, what is PEA? Somebody tell me what PEA stands for. Not you, Jonathan. Preliminary. Got it. All right. We're getting there. So who participates? Well, obviously the owner. And don't be thinking you have to put on steel shoes and safety vests to do this. The owner's role is sponsoring this activity and producing some rudimentary documentation, utility bills, maybe some drawings, and let us find our way around your facility. ESCO is going to do the hard work. Right, Cassidy? You do the hard work. So the ESCO will do the walkthrough, analyze this data, and take the risk. That's right. And then the lender. In the case of SECO, those guys actually get involved from the get-go. They have their own independent third-party review engineers. So whatever we think is going on, there's going to be somebody else to take a look at it to validate that that is actually built on solid engineering, and we did the math right. I actually got an email just a little while ago from somebody that said, your numbers don't match. I forgot to take the demand that was saved every month and multiply times 12. So anyway, you wouldn't think that would happen as young as I am. And I guess it's just chalk it up to not enough experience. But, anyway, we have third parties that review what we do. So timing is good. I bet if we had enough time in here and go around the room, some of you could give us some stories on your electric rate. But earlier this week, we were with another client, South Texas, and I'm so used to your public agencies, that y'all go and bid your electricity, and it comes in at I call them ridiculously cheap prices, 3 and 4 cents for the power, and throw in the encore fees of 2 or 3 cents, and you got an all in at 5, 6, 7 cents a kilowatt hour, and I'm paying 12 at my house. Anyway, what we saw is another municipality, the results of their bids just recently was 7 cents a kilowatt hour. That's for the retail electric provider. And then you got to add in, the 2 and 3 cents for the transmission distribution company. So you can see the days of the 6 cent power are in our rearview mirror. So when your contracts run out, you're not going to be able to renew at that. I haven't said that. Does anybody take issue with what I just said? I mean, I'm not there. I think that's probably happening. we have great equipment opportunities today. At my house, variable speed fan on the inside, variable speed compressor on the outside, thing lows along even at 30–40% speed on a 100-degree day. You can have that type of performance for your buildings also. We never had those type of technology options just, 10 years ago. So it's just really fantastic to see all the different types of technology solutions that are out there. And also you're going to hear momentarily that I realize I've only been in this industry for a short period of time, so I can't look too far back. I can only go back to about 1980 or so. And so I've never seen so many incentives that are available for energy efficiencies as we have right now. And the greenhouse gas reductions that we already said are very profound. So the message is time is to act, and Uncle Sam's got some incentives to throw your way. And so back to the initial question. On your path to net zero, Energy Star, budget stability, sustainability, the first step, there it is again, is getting that energy report card done. And it's very painless for you to do that. SECO is standing by really to help you get that underway. And we talked about this presentation a couple of days ago, and somebody said, what's the cost of doing nothing? Well, I had to think about that for a moment. So an average SECO Lone Star project is 20 to 25% savings. So go look at your utility spend every year, multiply times 0.2, and SECO will go 15 years on a loan. So I'm saying 20% of utility budget times 15, that would be the cost of doing nothing. Plus you don't get any new equipment, new lighting, and so forth. So think about this here. Doing something costs something, not much in this case, but doing nothing definitely costs something. And we're pitching to you that this last part is true. Quite often, the doing nothing costs a lot more than doing something. So I'm going to pass the torch over to.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
You want me to go?
Yes, please.
So Cassidy's going to come along here and give y'all some a deep dive now on.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a combo presentation here, and it is a little bit kind of reflective of my background. So I started in lead. So I did 12 years as lead consultant, and then I ran a program for SECO, City Efficiency Leadership Council, for a while, and then I got a deep dive education into energy savings performance contracting and energy efficiency. And that was the beginning of my transition over to Ameresco. And so I've kind of traced the line of this conversation a few different ways. So my presentation is a lot on funding, but I'm also going to give you guys a quick rundown of energy savings performance contracting, if that's a procurement method that you're unfamiliar with. Can kind of go through the basics of that. So I'm actually going to talk about that first, and then we'll talk about funding. Maybe with my number. Yeah, you may need to switch for me. Sorry. Or you can do. Yeah, let's do that. So Cliff kind of touched on some of this, but we really think of performance contracting as in kind of the span of different ways that you can procure and implement energy efficiency building retrofits, clean energy projects on your building. So, over here on the right side, you can kind of think about this span of more internal involvement, more risk on the building owner, less internal involvement, less risk on the building owner. So over here, you have kind of your more traditional ways of getting this done, self-performance, traditional design bid build. Then you kind of move into a design build format where you're getting into the turnkey approach, where you have a partner that you partner with, and they help you determine what opportunities you have. They develop the scope and they implement it. Right here in the middle is the performance contract. Performance contracting is really a version of design build. It is usually controlled in some way by a state statute. In Texas, there's a statute that enables performance contracting, and it also comes with a savings guarantee. And that statute defines how exactly that savings guarantee is calculated. And then you kind of start moving into as a service structures where you're potentially not actually paying for your building or for the retrofit of your building, but you're having a company come in and they change out your equipment and they actually own that asset. You see as a service really common in solar. A power purchase agreement, PPA, is an as a service type contract. And then you can go all the way through to a P3 where you have a third party entity that owns and operates a facility for you. I don't need this. Any questions on that? So in Texas, for local governments, performance contracting is enabled by Texas Local Government Code Chapter 302, and it really details the process, what can be included in a performance contract, how the savings is calculated and guaranteed, the third-party review. But the general concept behind both design build and performance contract is right now you're paying this much on your utilities. You enter into a performance contract, and for the contract term, a portion of the savings that's realized is paying the debt that you took out to implement the project, and you might get a little bit of savings on that. But eventually, when your debt is paid off, usually well within the durable life of the improvement, then all of the savings is realized directly to the city. Or there's enabling statutes for performance contracting for local government, higher ed, and K-12 and state agencies. So it's enabled in all four kind of major pillars of public sector in Texas. And just a bit on the process. Again, Cliff kind of started introducing some of these. So you start with that PEA, you start with that preliminary audit. Your ESCO partner will do a PEA, SECO will do a PEA, and that really gives you an opportunity of kind of that gives you a sense that you have opportunity. Once you decide that you have your partner and you like the working with them, then you will enter into an investment grade audit. That is a deep dive into your building, your bills, you have folks on site for multiple days at a time, really getting into the equipment that you have. And that is where you calculate that investment level of savings calculation. From there, you go into a contract to actually execute the implementation of the energy cost measures, ECMs. Go ahead and build it, and then you have that performance period where that's when your measurement verification is confirming that that savings that was guaranteed is actually delivered to you. And then this is just kind of the array of what can be done in your buildings using performance contract or a design build structure. So everything from solar to core energy efficiency and all of your energy using systems. Advanced water metering can be done under a performance contract in Texas. MV systems, retro commissioning, kind of the whole universe of retrofits across your built environment, your cities, and your energy infrastructure.
Can you let me ask a question?
Sure.
So
Could I stop you?
Could you elaborate a little bit more on the EV charging, how that might fit into a public agency and they're trying to look at performance contracting? Would that be considered revenue? Or what do you think?
That's a good question. These are ECMs from the whole universe of performance contracting. So is EV charging?
It was a setup question.
Yeah, is EV charging enabled in our statute? I don't think it is.
I think that's questionable,
Yeah,
but the thing is, though, I think that generally speaking, no,
Did I just hear it now?
It's not.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you got me.
But that being said, a public agency can still consider an investment in EV charging for making revenues.
Sure, yeah, I mean, it can be a revenue source, and it kind of depends on your policy environment, who your utility is. I know in Austin, we ran into a little bit of hiccups on charging for EV charging because it's selling electricity. I think they got over that in Austin, figured it out. Elsewhere in the state, I don't think it's an issue.
Okay.
Thanks, Bud.
Yeah. You can give me the blame later.
And then just a bit on the model overall, again, Cliff kind of touched on this, but how it works. So the contractual relationship between the ESCO and the building owner is the development of scope and that savings guarantee. That building owner makes payments to the ESCO plus any M&V and O&M payments. Building owner separately has a loan with a third-party financial institution, so that's not the ESCO. And then those repayment of loans from the savings that you're realizing from the ESCO scope, and that ESCO is taking on that design and performance risk through that guarantee. Okay. And just a couple quick case studies. So Wichita County, Texas, we did a comprehensive ESPC with them a few years ago. So this covered lighting, HVAC, some envelope components, window films, replacement of chiller, replacement of a boiler, pretty comprehensive across 9 buildings and 13 different ECMs. Total building square footage, about 330,000 square feet, and the annual savings, about $270,000 a year on a $3.8 million contract.
So the 3.8 was the total cost of the project?
Yeah. Anything else? And then higher ed institutions in Texas have really embraced the ESPC model. Texas A&M, Bahman's home, although West Texas A&M is not where he is based. But the A&M system has done multiple rounds of ESPCs as well as design build contracts. You know, again, comprehensive solution types with over $1.1 million in annual savings. So now I'm going to change hats and talk about funding and federal issues. Anything on ESPCs before I move on? No. Oh, yeah, James.
Do you have any recommendations for public entities when sort of there's turnover and things like that, of like how budget wise to kind of pair the debt payment with
How to maintain that the savings actually is realized by the department? Yeah. I mean, it's communication. There is a lot of turnover, but really, or ESCO should work across those departments, should really be just as deeply involved with finance and the city manager's office as they are with the facilities office. And really, a lot of these conversations start with the CFO first, and really establishing that the priority for the department, if it's building services or if it's a sustainability driven initiative, is communicated and you know, addressed at the front end.
Cassidy, I'm just want to make a comment. I know you guys are not reading all the stuff that was done, but what you should realize is these are high capital items that I'm going to say that had it not been for the energy project, you may have put it off and not do it until it breaks. And so these vehicles are a good way to be proactive, upgrading and updating mechanical, electrical systems that otherwise would sit there and waste energy until such time as they break.
That's absolutely true, that a lot of times performance contracting or design build work is justified and sold by the energy savings, but is really accomplishing departmental goals, departmental functional goals, deferred maintenance that can't make it into a bond package. So it really finding that savings can pay for other priorities that a department has for its buildings. Yep. That's what that. Okay. Moving on. So this is actually my main job is the federal stuff. So I'll be a little more detailed here. So we're all pretty familiar with the Inflation Reduction Act at this point, but just a reminder, it just had a birthday. Very excited about that. $370 billion worth of investment in energy and climate across a number of programs with a continued emphasis on equity and growing the U.S. economy, jobs, labor, et cetera. And just a reminder that when fully implemented, the Inflation Reduction Act is expected to reduce the national greenhouse gas emissions by 40%. So this is an absolute historic piece of legislation that was passed. So what does that mean for your building retrofits? So the reality, in my opinion, is that because so often energy efficiency pays for itself, it was not the emphasis of the IRA. Just that's my take on it. There are ways that straight energy efficiency is reflected in the bill, but a lot of what you're going to see in the media, a lot of what you're going to see in funding opportunities is clean energy or generation focused. So solar, wind, things like that. So I'm going to go through the clean energy tax incentives, and then we'll touch on some programs that are more specific to efficiency. So these are the array of tax credit programs that were included in the IRA. Some of them are going to be relevant. Some of them are not. You know, I think the ITC and the PTC are ones that I'm somewhat familiar with. The energy efficiency deduction. This is a transition in 2024 of the ITC and PTC to a tech neutral credit. And then some, you're probably not going to have zero emission nuclear power production in your cities, but that's why there's a credit related to that. So yeah, just a kind of another summary of expansion enhancements of some existing credits while also introducing credits for some new technologies. Specifically on the non-residential clean energy credits. So the IRA provided 10+ years of tax certainty, which if anyone has experience in the solar industry, there has been this kind of existential cliff for years that the ITC is going to go away. The ITC is going to go away. So the IRA provided 10 years of certainty around these credits through at least 3032. And then just to review, the ITC is an investment tax credit. It is for, it is a credit on what you put into the front end of a project. The production tax credit is a credit based on units that you generate. Historically, the ITC has been used for solar. The PTC has been used for wind. Now you can use either or for either technology, but we're still generally seeing the ITCs landing better for solar, PTC is still landing better for wind.
Can those be stacked?
No, ITC and PTC are exclusive to each other or mutually exclusive. And then after 2024, a technology neutral credit will kick in that it's still going to be structured similarly, but instead of being like for solar, for storage, it's going to be, you have a generation technology that is zero emissions. And if that zero emissions technology, if you put an investment in it, you get an investment tax credit. If it produces a zero emissions energy, you get a generation or a production credit. Some enhancements to the ITC and PTC. So some new technologies were added. Particularly, it enabled standalone storage facilities to receive the ITC. And interconnection property for solar system. So that's the infrastructure that you put between your building and the substation. Before that investment was not eligible, but now it's part of the basis, and then microgrid controls were added. It also introduced some labor provisions related to full achievement of the ITC. So for projects over 1 megawatt, and this is for the clean energy projects. We'll talk about efficiency projects here in a second. But for generation projects, either ones that are over a megawatt AC are required to meet these prevailing wage and registered apprenticeship requirements. So the prevailing wage is probably something pretty familiar to local governments. Usually local governments require prevailing wage anyway, but the registered apprenticeship piece is fairly new to the market, and it is a minimum participation of apprentices by most trades that are going to be on these sites, and you have to reach a minimum percentage of the total hours worked on the project must be performed by apprentices. And if you do not achieve these wage and apprenticeship requirements on projects over a megawatt, then your ITC and PTC eligibility are reduced by 6% or by effectively 80% of the value. Another really major shift and enhancement to the tax credits is making them available to public entities through what we're calling a direct pay process. So direct pay essentially looks like a rebate program. So before, an entity had to have a tax liability to be able to monetize these credits because it's tax credit, so it reduces your tax burden. Local governments don't have to pay taxes, and so the direct pay option enables a city, local government, or a higher ed, et cetera, K-12 to directly file for reimbursement from the IRS equivalent to the ITC eligibility. There is some linking of the direct pay eligibility to the achievement of the domestic content bonus. So there's a carrot and stick model included in these, which I think I'll get into here. So on top of the base 30% ITC, there are 3 layers of bonus credits available that could, in theory, bring a project up to a 70% ITC. A 70% ITC is not realistic, however, but it is in theory possible. So these bonus credits are in fact stackable. So you can get a 10% for achievement of the domestic content bonus, another 10% if you're located in an energy community, and there are decent amounts of Texas that are eligible to be energy communities. And then a third program that's a competitive allocation for projects that are located within these eligible low-income communities or are directly serving like a low-income housing unit. For the domestic content, your eligibility for direct pay decreases over time if you do not achieve the domestic content bonus. So that's what I mean by it's a carrot, you get a bonus, but it's also a stick in that your eligibility decreases if you don't get it. A little bit on residential tax credits. So there is energy efficient home credit. So a lot of times this city departments, you're concerned about your own buildings, but you're also trying to implement programs that benefit your citizens overall. And so understanding these credits and potentially marketing them or promoting them through your city channels might be beneficial. So up to a 30% credit, a $1,200 annual limit on an efficient home credit. Just read that. And then similarly to the ITC, there's clean energy credits for residential. So they follow somewhat different rules. They don't have the labor provisions, for instance, but it's kind of it's a similar level, still 30%. And then credit for new home construction. That's a little bit on the transportation side. So again, we're kind of moving away from building retrofits, but you know, oftentimes parking lots are still a concern. I think the main one to pay attention to here is the EV, not that one, the alternative fuel refueling property credit. So this is a credit that is eligible for direct pay that can be used for like EV charging. Some of these other ones, like the renewable fuel credit, that's like if you're producing jet fuel that's made out of biomass, you know, like, or hydrogen. And then this is for actual purchasing of vehicles. And then this is for the actual commercial vehicles. And then this is the one that you probably have seen a lot in the news, that you as an individual EV buyer can get a tax credit if the vehicle meets certain criteria. Okay, so now the specific way that the IRA addressed efficiency. The 179D tax deduction, or the EPACT as it was originally called, is the main way that energy efficiency shows up in the tax credits. But it is not a tax credit. It is a tax deduction. So think about your own taxes. The difference is tax credits, it's just straight money back to you. Tax deduction is it reduces by your effective tax rate. The 179D tax credit or benefit deduction increased quite a bit in its potential. It's up to $5 a square foot if you meet the prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements. But it is not eligible for direct pay. And so the way that historically this has been facilitated is the benefit of the deduction can be assigned to the designer of the building or of the project. So you can assign that deduction to your designer, and then between you and your designer determine what that means for your project. But I think the big, and then one of the biggest shifts with the 179D deduction is it also introduced a secondary path. So it used to be based on only the code. So a reduction from the code baseline. Now it's introduced a retrofit option so that you're comparing your deduction potential based on the existing conditions of your building rather than the code. So in some cases, you're going to have a better calculation of your deduction if you look at your existing building versus your code baseline building. Okay, and quickly on the grants and incentives. So really, you know, just across the board with all of the federal grant programs, there is a very clear, very strong emphasis on environmental justice, labor, and community benefits. So almost every grant is going to prioritize locations that are identified as EJ or Justice 40 communities. So that's the kind of light blue if you around the Metroplex. And then almost all of the major grant programs are going to require the development of a community benefits plan, which is where you really think through how you're engaging with stakeholders, how the benefits flow to stakeholders, et cetera. And then there are a few programs that will touch on building retrofits that in terms of grants. The ECBG program, this has largely already been doled out, but this is a direct allocation to cities. So I'm seeing some nods like you guys already got it. You already figured out what you're doing with it. One of the things that I just saw though is that they issued a categorical waiver for Buy America. So that if that's not on your radar for those of you doing stuff with the ECBG, you don't have to worry about Buy America, which is nice because Buy America is hard. Some money went straight to the state energy offices. So in our case, SECO, and SECO has a application open for a municipal interior and exterior lighting retrofit. It's a reimbursable grant essentially for up to $50,000. And then there's some kind of longer term ways that we might see some of this federal money show up in funding energy efficiency. So these climate pollution reduction grants, Brianne, how close are you to the planning efforts? Not to put you on the spot.
We're in them. So we just got the EPA COG funding confirmed with COG as the sponsor for the region. COG's leading the COG efforts. We're currently, I'll talk about this a little bit at the end, but we're hosting a series of kind of strategy workshops based on different sectors to bring the communities in and hear what those priorities are around energy efficiency, transportation, all those types of things to incorporate into our climate planning for the region. But so having those workshops, and we're also kind of on the back end funding. Of course, a piece of the CPRG is updating our regional greenhouse gas. And there'll be a lot of meetings.
So, so NCTCOG is the planning, is the organization that received the planning money for this region. So they're putting together the overall plan to pursue the implementation grants. Yeah.
So we're putting the plan together, but then once that's in place, a couple years from now, then it moves into the implementation stage. So that's where individual local governments can apply for implementation funding to do projects that work towards kind of pollution reductions that are written to possibly.
So two of the biggest pots of money that will may have eventually aid energy efficiency for local government building are direct. So climate pollution reduction grants is indirect, and then the greenhouse gas reduction fund is a very $27 billion pot of money, but it's going to financial institutions for the most part. 20 billion is going to financial institutions for the creation of kind of green bank or local bank products that may or may not end up being financial products that fund these things for the public sector. That's kind of to be determined. And then this rebate and these again kind of indirect. The BRIC program is really cool. It's very complicated, but this is if you have specifically a resilience interest. BRIC is pretty hard for Texas because of the way that we do building codes. I won't get too wonky with it, but BRIC hasn't really been super successful for Texas. And then this is really for giving money to community-based organizations, like giving money, the city giving money to building owners that are not the city to do work on their facilities. And then this is a rebate. It's pretty small, $25,000 per year per applicant, but it's active now, but it's probably going to run out really quickly. It's only a $10 million program. If you're currently doing transformers or like motor projects, this rebate is an option. That's what I had. A little disjointed, but any questions on that? A lot of information, I know. It's like my head is in the notes these days. Thanks.
Cassidy by now has IRS made their rules, if you will, for all of those incentives. So we can get on the internet and see the instructions on how to do all of that.
A lot of it is issued, but it's all kind of coming in multiple rounds. So you say no, Jonathan, what
Not all of it's done yet.
what aspect in particular are you thinking of?
So they just released they may be out now. I know they released some stuff in the last couple of weeks. I haven't gotten to go through all of that as closely yet. I know that we were still waiting on, I guess the money has been issued to the states, and the states haven't decided what they're going to do with all of it yet, especially Texas.
For the homes, you're talking about like the homes rebate program? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So a lot of the guidance for the details of the commercial, like the ITC have been issued at least in draft But yes, and apparently to that guidance that came out on the homes rebate program, I've heard the grapevine was a mess and it's gonna be really hard to implement for any state.
Yeah, I was basically told by the one person I know that has read it that it's not even possible.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. Okay, sorry, I need to, I'll be right back.
Thank you. Do you work this thing out?
Just,
Okay,
yeah, there we go.
all right. My name is Bahman Yazdani. I'm sorry I'm not up to par today. I'm having some sickness. I've tested twice for COVID. It's negative, so you don't have to worry about that. I work with Texas A&M University Energy Systems Laboratory. I want to tell you a little bit about Texas A&M University system, which is Texas A&M in all 11 universities. It has 11 universities, and it has, in each of the universities, they have colleges of engineering. And these colleges of engineering do two things. They do curriculum teaching, and then they also do research. So they have separated the research from all these colleges of engineering, and universities bunch them together, and they call them Texas A&M Engineering Experiment Station. That entity is a research arm of the state of Texas. It's the only engineering agency of the state of Texas. And needless to say that we wear two hats as a state agency and as Texas A&M. This is what we do with foster training, research, and what have you. But one of the things that we do, the last bullet is you may be familiar with, because we are very, very much involved with the North Central Texas COG, and that is on energy codes. So we have been given the responsibility by the legislative. It is a legislative mandate to help communities with energy efficiency, and do energy efficiency training for the codes and standards, and also determine the impact of the energy codes on the state of Texas. So we do annually, we report to the legislature, copy State Energy Office, copy Texas Commission on Environmental Quality on the accomplishments. We also look at all the new codes that are published, and within 6 months, we actually come up with a recommendation for the state whether to adopt it or not. The Energy Systems Lab is one of the divisions of this Texas Engineering Experiment Station. There are 30 divisions. And so, again, Texas Emission Reduction Plan, TERP is one of them. So we are very much involved with that. We have annual Texas Energy Summit for the past 20 years. This year is going to be at the state capitol on November 14, 15, and 16. And we
we would like to welcome you all to come in and participate in that. One of the other things that we do is energy efficiency and capital improvement program for public entities, for cities, school districts, counties, and so on. And so we noticed that I'm saying energy efficiency and capital improvement. So it's not just energy efficiency. You actually address the capital needs of the entity, of the, for example, if there are chillers, normally energy companies don't address chillers because it has a long payback period. So it's not profitable for them. But we address this. Of course, you know, energy and sustainability management. We are world leader in measurement and verification. And we have two entities also within Energy Systems Lab. One is the Industrial Assessment Center. So these are for small, I thought when you say small manufacturers, for example, I thought it was small. This is like 100 people plus. So they do free assessment for the industry. Also the same with Building Performance Assessment Center. Come back to energy efficiency and capital improvement program for public entities. We meet with the public officials, try to find out what's on their plate as far as future plans, review their capital improvement plans, review system upgrade needs, and perform site visit to determine possible opportunities. We collect utility data, determine potential UCRM, utility cost reduction measure, and review findings with the public official and provide options to move forward. So this is basically what it does. You're going to get a copy of this, so I'm not going to go through this. But this is, again, same thing. We got to find out what the goals are and how we can best address that. These are some of the clients of the Energy Systems Lab. You have NASA, you have colleges, you have DFW Airport, you have Houston Airport System, federal governments, you have, you know, Bethesda National Laboratory, if you will. So this is what we did for DFW Airport. At the end, I'm going to go through a total. This is just a synopsis of 2 or 3 of the projects we have. This is DFW Airport. We started back in 2004. There was some money left over from a grant. And so we assessed their facilities, and they ended up wanting to do this because at the time, Terminal D, which is 2 million square foot plus, was coming online. And so we helped them, and these are the reduction in heating and cooling and electricity, and of course, reduction in emissions. This is a graph from 2007 to now. The total expenditure was 6.7 million, up to now the cumulative savings are 46.9. This is Alamo colleges. There are 5 colleges: San Antonio College, St. Philip's College, and so on. And we uh, um, had sustainability and energy efficiency measures in those facilities. Again, the total expenditure of 7.7 million and the total cumulative savings of $38.8 million. This is, again, the visual aspect of that. Example projects for Houston Airport System. We are a partner with Houston Airport System. And so we actually did an upgrade for Hobby Airport. They had a central utilities plant that was old. And so we actually came up with a brand new central utility plant with 4 brand new chillers with all kinds of bells and whistles. And the savings on that was supposed to be 1.35 million a year, but it is actually over $2 million a year. So they have upgraded their facilities and they're saving as well. I want to thank Metco Engineering, which Mr. Braddock and Mr. Bulgari are represented here for their dedication in because as a state agency, we can't do design, we can't do construction. So we work with our partners, such as Metco, to actually do these facilities and come up with energy efficiency for them. This was not a small task. You're talking about, like, if you look at the 4 chillers, you had 24-inch piping that went over 500 feet from the new central utility plant, they call it SCO, to the terminal and 500 feet back. So it was a major task, and Metco Engineering, along with the folks at HAS, Eastern Airport System, actually helped realize these savings. And so not only they upgraded their system, there is energy savings on top of that. Some of the programs that are out there, again, they're not going to look at upgrading system because it doesn't make sense financially. So we've done this. This project had a 1 megawatt solar system on top of Hobby Airport. Next time you go to Hobby, look at the garage, and there's a solar system, 1 megawatt. And you have, as part of this, 27 air handling units. The coils were changed at Hobby. You had 285 motors. These are baggage handling motors that got changed. You had conversion of air handling units from constant volume to variable air volume. You had lighting both at Terminal A at IAH and at Hobby. You had continuous commissioning at IAH. I mean, lots and lots of projects were embedded in this. And so these are some of the benefits. You're going to get this, so I'm not going to. One of the things they're working on is the net zero, which Mr. Braddock mentioned. So this would enhance their facilities. So that solar actually made Hobby Airport #1 airport in the United States of America with a 5-star. That was the first 5-star airport because of the renewable energy part of this. This was possible. You have, like, it was mentioned by Cassidy, there are many different ways you can approach energy efficiency projects. Most of what we do is with loan from State Energy Office. State Energy Office back in 1989, when the oil was at $8 a barrel. Some of the oil companies charged, and it went up to about $30 per barrel, but it came down to $10 per barrel. But the oil companies were still charging based on the 30. And so the state of Texas, along with 13 others like California, took him to court, and they won a settlement out of court for a fraction of that amount. That fraction of the amount for Texas was $300 million. So the judge in that case said, you got to use this money as a restitution for what the energy companies did to you. So of course the energy companies came and said, like Exxon and Chevron came and said, hey, we can do it. And the judge said, no, you were the culprit on this. You're not allowed that to happen. So it was $300,000. So they set aside $90 million, the revolving loan program. So, so it is for public entities, for school districts, for cities, for counties, for state agencies at 2% interest rate. Probably it's going to go up in September because all the interest rates are coming up, but 2%. And they have it 1% if you use our money. Of course, it's by American attached to it. So you have to pay more for products that are produced in the United States. They have a, again, 2% interest rate, 15-year maximum. You can get up to $8 million per package, but you can get 3 packages. So you can get up to $24 million from the State Energy Conservation Office at 2% interest rate. I mean, this is almost free money. Yes, thank you. Again, expected benefits. I don't want to go through all of this. The savings, upgrading your dilapidated chillers, boilers, air handling units, water and wastewater treatment plants, resiliency, which is basically if a hurricane comes and let's say during Houston and Center Point, lines are going down. Will you be able to have airplanes coming in and going out and heat and cool terminals? Benefits of partnership with T's. We, as a nature, we are transparent. We have to be. We are state agents. We cannot do anything else. We are a nonprofit, of course. We are a state agency. We educate students, hands-on training to do energy projects for students. We've trained 6 PhD students through this program that Metco did for Houston Airport System. And of course, reduced project period is not going to be a long term. You can do this a lot quicker. And in most cases, you could do zero contribution from the entity, from the city or county. And these costs and are paid, the cost of the loan is paid from energy efficiency. Just like Celeste mentioned, you know, you have let's say $100,000, and if you can reduce your cost by 20%, so you actually can pay the utility company $80,000 and use that 20% to amortize that loan. So these are, okay, so I mentioned to you, I want to go through it. Actual project, those were actual too, but this is, I want to go through this real quickly. So look at the implementation of utility cost reduction measures. These are projects that can produce energy savings. It was for City Hall in Houston, City Hall Annex, Public Works, and Permitting Center. And these are some of the projects, HVAC replacement, pumps, all kinds of things, solar panels that they had that weren't working, so on. But I want to show you this here. This is what actually the State Energy Office looks at. And so you have line by line, you have the energy cost reduction measure. So you have, for example, lighting upgrade, item number 2. This is what the energy savings, kilowatt hour savings per year would be, demand savings, electric dollar savings, and what about natural gas? In a lot of cases, it's going to cost more for natural gas, so it's a negative, and so on. But these are the cost savings, and so everything. So this column right here is basically shows the total project cost for that item, and when you add it together, it's $2.9 million. And as part of this, again, we had to charge a project management fee, again, for the students. What are we getting out of this? Being a nonprofit, we can gain profit. So this pays for graduate students and so on to teach them. Project management, metering to see what the savings have been, monitoring. So the total project is that. And so the total loan is $3,700,000. So if you look at this is the cash flow. This illustrates what you can do. So you borrowed 2% on a 10-year, not 15, but 10-year term, $3.7 million. And your payment is estimated annual savings is $532,000. Annual fixed payments is $413,000. So actually you have a positive cash flow. You've upgraded your system. You became more energy efficient. You have new lighting, you have new boilers, you have new control system. And on top of that, you have the first year, you have $119,000 extra positive cash flow. And if you look at the cumulative cash flow, this is a 2% annual increase. So it'll show you what it can do. It is amazing. So this is the last, aren't you glad? This is the last slide. Regardless of what you do and how you go about doing it, you go with SECO, if you go with energy as a
As a service,
as a service thing.
PPA type.
Yeah, as a service. Basically, they pay for everything. The company pays for everything and you pay them back, basically. So that's energy as a service. Oh, or the P3, which is public-private partnership, or all of them are viable. Regardless of what you do it. Because as Mr. Braddock said, there's a cost associated with not doing it. And so I want to thank Metco, Ameresco, for being my partner in today's thing. I want to say that we went out for to get companies in both Metco and Ameresco have been chosen. So hopefully we can do a bunch of projects with both of these companies. And so, thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
So I think what we'd like is, I haven't heard these guys ask too many questions. So
Yeah.
either we're boring or you already know all of this, or we would enjoy a short dialogue if anybody's got some comments. And we won't ask Jonathan if he's got any, because he always has comments. But it'd be nice to hear from public agencies or anybody else. What do y'all think about all this?
That leads perfectly into the slide I have here for roundtable discussion, kind of some guiding questions. Think about, so have any of your people already done retrofits? It sounds like Heather, y'all are planning some retrofits or at least thinking about this already. How have you funded those? What have you done? What incentives are you looking at? Just, yeah. About this. I don't want to put you on the spot, but James, since you mentioned you were thinking about it. Tell us anything.
I had already pulled the DOE energy efficiency law grant down on one of my spreadsheets because we're doing a lot of GILID to energy efficiency. But, and then I'm updating it with what SECO has.
So unfortunately, I'm not sure the ECBGs are going to be available to you because they are for local governments. So ECBG for formula allocations specifically to local state governments. But it may be the climate pollution reduction grant programs that the COG is running, that you might have some implementation opportunities there.
Any of the cities here tapped into that ECBG funding?
What did you guys end up doing? I think I've heard Catherine talk about, you guys did some lighting maybe?
Yeah, we're doing some lighting and then we're looking at some more possibly with the SECO funding for that deadline in September. So definitely look at that.
For Flower Mound or Fort Worth, where you guys used that money already?
We've just recently applied. We're planning to use it to develop an energy efficiency and conservation plan. And depending on what comes out of the plan, we'd be implementing likely some type of energy efficiency measure.
Just say I'm not too sure.
Can I ask you guys a question about, is resiliency becoming a buzzword around the office? Resiliency, reliability. So when storms come in, the utility goes down. Are y'all having to take action to, keep your facilities up and running when that happens? Is that not a discussion topic? Not really.
Yeah.
I guess since we work across the state, it's really dominant on the coast for obvious reasons. Maybe not so much here.
No, we operate wastewater treatment facilities. It's a big topic. So yeah, they're looking at it.
I would say it's a big topic for us too. So we've got sort of our resilience hubs picked out. around the city for different municipal buildings. And so making sure that those are operational even in the high stress times, and, you know, what does backup power look like? You know, is it from renewable sources? If not, you know, is it a mix? And so those are definitely conversations.
You're calling them resiliency hubs?
For our local governments, if you're considering like any new building, you do need to, you're going to be required to consider resiliency whenever you are working on that.
Right.
And you mentioned the wastewater that's already having on-site generation.
Oh, I think maybe probably the largest one in Dallas, so. But I'm here mainly for our physical admin buildings.
Questions, comments?
I'm with a nonprofit company, but I missed the beginning, so I don't know if it was mentioned then, but one thing that's been popularized a lot in some of the press that I've been reading is the opportunity when you're doing building upgrades to incorporate building controls that can do demand response programs. That's you know, I would say that's a big opportunity for getting some revenue from.
And demand response can be to reduce your load to advanced controls.
Yeah, and you can get paid by the utilities or by ERCOT if you're
That's right.
participating in the wholesale.
We have some of our clients who have enrolled in some of that demand response stuff where, you know, ERCOT will know of an event coming up, that the heat's gonna spike at 3 o'clock today and when everybody's getting home. So we can have some of our clients increase their HVAC load early on in the day to maybe cool your building down a couple extra degrees.
Kind of a flywheel effect.
Right, so but you're spreading out that load that way in that peak time. Your facilities are virtually unaffected because it's still cool inside, but you can curtail that load. We've got some systems like that that are extremely good for that demand response.
Y'all see the one I'm holding right here? This is a crystal ball. And I said a little while ago that we were experiencing, the winter storm Uri caused permanent change in our energy industry for Texas. And if you paid a lot of attention, there were some bad things that happened during the storm. Electric prices went way up, and a lot of utilities have a lot of, I mean, there's still, there'll be years recovering from the financial impacts. But our state legislators passed a bill this past session. Try to put, these are not comments, not reading anything, but put belts and suspenders, if you will, on our power grid. And they're making public, you know, funding available to back up, by financial backup for new hard assets to be installed for backing up the grid. So be thinking a bunch of you know, probably gas generators spread in a variety of locations. And the reliability of those generators is going to be guaranteed whether they're called to run or not. This is a very expensive proposition. Don't be thinking hundreds of millions, be thinking billions. So that program is soon to be underway. And guess who's going to be paying for it? I don't know how many electric meters we have in the state, but every one of them will have a pro rata share of that expense. So anyway, it's just a comment, I guess. My point is that the value of energy efficiency, it continues to go up. So anything y'all do, you know, to reduce your usage will be a good thing. It'll have a good payback.
What was that bill number? You know?
I can look it up for you. It's on our computer.
It's like 6. It's like.
It was one of the early bills. It was, I think it's SB 6.
SB6?
Yeah, I think it's SB 6.
Okay.
Yeah, it's low. in the
Yeah, I know it's one
count.
of the under 10 ones.
So the idea is hopefully that we don't have a statewide outage like we did before. It's been fun, I think, for all of us to present to you. This is our careers and life, so that's what we do when we drink beer, is we talk about energy. We don't have a life like y'all do.
Yeah, thank you again all so much. I'm very grateful to have partners and relationships with Metco and Texas A&M to talk to everyone about this and make sure. Because we at COG, we know some things, but I think one of our main functions is finding experts and connecting them. So we don't know something, we know someone who knows.
Well, and reciprocally, we don't have to do like rounds of pat on the back, but NCTCOG has always been such an awesome partner for the state, for the cities, for those of us who work with cities. And you're just very effective at getting people together and in these conversations and having really organized programs. So there are lots of other COGs in the state that are not quite as organized.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so
One question.
Yeah.
Make sure I got this right. So I can request a free, I guess, assessment of our current building from all three presenters today or only A&M?
You can get a PEA from all sorts of places, but SECO has a free PEA program, but then all of our organizations also provide free PEAs. So yes, the answer is yes.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yes, and.
Yes, and.
yeah, and on that note, like we said, we've mentioned SECO a lot today. We've got some handouts in the back that talk more about what SECO does, and we also printed out some copies of that application form to get the PEA, the preliminary assessment or audit from SECO. So you can take those back to your cities, take a look at them. And that's a super easy first step, just to kind of get a baseline of where your facilities are at from SECO, and then you can start to look at all of the strategies. So if you haven't already got the PEA, SECO or any of these folks are a great resource there. Okay, just a couple quick things. If you want to talk more about energy resiliency, which is kind of the flip side of energy efficiency, we've got a virtual webinar coming up next week about energy resiliency and hazard mitigation planning. So again, talking about how to make facilities resilient in the face of grid disruptions and outages. I believe we'll also be talking a little bit about EVs and EV charging resilience in the face of grid disruptions and things like that. So that information's there. Also, I alluded to this earlier, but September 18th, we've got under that CPRG Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program, we're having a kind of strategy brainstorming meeting on all things energy sector. So we're going to be covering industrial energy, municipal and residential, just energy generation, yeah, kind of all things energy sector, and discussing regional priorities and strategies for making the sectors more efficient and less harsh on climate and other things. That'll be hybrid, that'll be both in person here, and we'll have an online discussion option. All of our events are online at these links, and these slides are going to be sent out in a follow-up email. However you heard about this event today, the slides will be posted in that same spot. And here's my contact information, and also for Krista in the back. If you have any questions for things that COG does or something we talked about today, feel free to reach out to either of us. Thanks again to our presenters. Thanks to everyone who came out. And I'm really glad we recorded this because I think all of the information was super great for our cities that weren't able to today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,